till you get this later.
I'm just going to keep recording for a bit. Can we?
Sure.
Do you want to talk just before we get into the film?
Yeah.
And then maybe I don't know, something will come up and we'll transition in.
Okay.
So I found myself the last couple days.
Time traveling?
No, turning on movies that I thought I would watch like half an hour of.
Yeah.
And then watching the whole thing.
Tell me it's Independence Day.
Well, I definitely did watch all of that.
Yes.
But that was a work day, so that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
But last night I turned on Unstoppable, Tony Scott's last movie.
Oh.
Have you ever seen it?
The Denzel one?
It's a Tony Scott film.
Obviously the Denzel one. Yeah.
It's about how the only thing that can stop an unstoppable train is another train.
Two Denzels?
It's really good, actually. It's really, really good.
Sick.
Yeah.
I do like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Pine and Denzel.
It's cliff of your chair. Nope. Seat of your cliff. Nope.
That's it. No, you got it.
Yeah. That's well, you're always at the seat of your cliff watching Unstoppable. Okay. Yeah.
What's up?
I'm John.
Anyway. Wow,
Sorry,
you totally derailed me there.
I blacked out for a second there.
You should have been in that film, Unstoppable.
I'm very much fully in character today to speak about the film that we're going to speak about.
Welcome to the Low Ceiling. I'm John.
I'm also John. What's the deal?
Oh, okay. All right. If that's how you're going to be, I'm going to travel back in time and change my life.
Damn it. I'm Pri.
Did I already say welcome to the Low Ceiling?
You did.
All right, cool. Welcome to the Low Ceiling.
Hey.
Today, we're talking about a movie that you might have already heard me mention because I might cut it into the podcast, The Butterfly Effect.
Hell yeah.
2004 banger.
Oh my God.
So, all right, I want to clear the air right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this movie?
I love this movie.
You love this movie?
I love this movie.
Okay.
And I saw it one time when I was 14, and then I saw it now. And my God, what a world of difference. not that I've matured or anything, but this movie's dark as hell.
That's one of the changing aspects over time that this movie has, like that struck me on this viewing of this film as well. Now, I think, as I have said, I like this movie. I don't think it's very good.
No.
But in an objective sense.
Yes.
But I do like it. And I have some, I don't want to say controversial, but I have some unconventional views about what makes it good, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them might surprise you.
Are all the reasons?
Well, so like this movie is rife with a bunch of problems,
yes.
Right? First off being that it's dark to the point of distastefulness almost, and I can see why that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah.
There's almost every dark thing you can imagine happens in this movie. It's not always depicted, but like it has references to child pornography, like sexual abuse, prison abuse. Like it's, yeah.
I feel like before we get into it, we should say that there's a strong content warning for this podcast. There are going to be some dark themes, so
yeah,
you know.
But okay, you know what is so wild about this movie? Again, this is another one of those movies that was just on all the time when I was young.
Oh my God, all the time.
And I remember being an avid Much Music watcher, which you never had growing up in India, but Much Music is like Canada's version of MTV.
Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy that way. Crazy channel. But like they're all focused on like they're aimed squarely at like teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And this movie would be played even on that channel and on the movie channel and all this kind of stuff, but Much Music,
oh man,
like they were into like celebrity gossip and music. And Ashton Kutcher, as we know, is a big target of celebrity gossip.
Sure.
So somehow they had to, when this movie was coming out, it felt like lots of those kind of channels aimed at my demographic kind of had to be like the big new Ashton Kutcher movie, but it's such a difficult movie to actually market because it's like, it's so dark. And it's not what you expect from an Ashton Kutcher film, as you can tell from what he went on to do in his career. But at that time, he was like on That 70s Show and was one of the biggest faces on TV, right?
Which he kind of brings into this movie as well. He's some part of his character is still a little bit Kelso-y. Other parts of his character feel like something you would see on Punk'd. And then, of course, like you said, all the controversy. Is that around the time with Demi Moore? Is that why he was all in the news all the time?
Yeah, I think so. He was just a gossip kind of magnet, you know.
Funny you brought up was it Much Music?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like MTV. One of the reviews on the internet was like, this movie is like time travel, but for MTV generation.
Yeah, it is
which
a little.
Kind of nails it on the head a little bit.
Because the weird thing is like it's heavily. I mean, a large portion of the film is about teenagers.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But not in the way where you're like a happy-go-lucky teen who wants to watch it. It's like really dark. And do you want to hear my unconventional defense of this film?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Ashton Kutcher is actually good in it.
I think Ashton Kutcher is the only good part in this movie.
Ethan Suplee is also in it, and he's lit.
Correct.
Ashton Kutcher is actually really good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. He's good. Lots of people though hated that he had been in this film.
Yeah.
And I read like some old reviews that were like pretty damning. Like this movie was very unpopular at the time. And then one of my questions is like, I've wondered for a long time if this movie would ever be reclaimed by the culture in any way. And I don't think it has really, because of the reasons that we've cited. However, the film critic for The Guardian wrote like 5 years later, he was like, I think people were really hard on it because it was uncool to like an Ashton Kutcher film. And
interesting.
I agree. I think Ashton Kutcher is actually good, and much like our conversation with Jennifer's Body, his everything outside of the performance itself, it poisons the film in a way that makes it unpopular. That's kind of my thought of it. But so far removed from it, almost 20 years later, he's actually good in this movie.
That's an interesting take. I know that a lot of people kind of think back to Donnie Darko in being like in a similar tone, but they managed to do it in a very smart way. And that's where you can, that's where I feel like it kind of falls off just vastly. It feels like a long music video.
Donnie Darko is just a better movie. And again, like a movie that has its problems, but it's just a more
stronger
Donnie Darko has a more interesting perspective just on like the world, in my opinion, you know, like it has lots of like humor, like black humor, and dark stuff happens in it. Again, a movie that references child abuse and child pornography, but I don't think of Donnie Darko as like an just like oppressively dark film the way sometimes Butterfly Effect can really feel.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it really can feel that way. Like,
and it's shocking because my favorite part about Butterfly Effect is the premise. And I love that it's got such a promising concept, like bringing in chaos theory, bringing in a little bit of sci-fi, bringing in all of that, and then just shitting the bed a little bit in terms of execution. It's
like a premise that it refuses to fully tackle, you know? And I think lots of people, like I've read complaints about being like, well, it doesn't like follow its own rules of the universe. Also, another problem is like the film kind of has to explain itself too much.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. But then if you think of today, how like some of the most popular movies in the world are about multiverses and shit like that.
Which is why that argument to me is like, I absolutely do not care that it doesn't follow the rules of the universe. It's time travel. They'll fuck around with it.
But I agree, because lots of great movies don't follow the own rules they've set, and they can get away with it. And I again, like if it's a good enough film, I don't really care. And actually, even this movie, which as I said, objectively, I don't think is a very good film, I don't care. I think it does enough. The strength of this movie is it does enough with its emotional storytelling for me to be like, that doesn't matter to me, you know?
Hell yeah.
Also, it's stupid criticism to nitpick a thing and just be like, well, this movie is terrible because of one small plot hole. Because it's like there's lots of like great movies that might have like small plot holes or things that don't make sense. That's part of life. They're films. They're not real life, guys.
It's the flap of a butterfly's wing, guys. Nobody can control any of that. I love that it opens with just a fantastic visual of a fluttering butterfly that transforms into a brain, and I'm all about that kind. I feel like if I had a desktop cover today, what am I saying? Desktop cover, wallpaper, technology. If I had that, it would be an image like that. So
yeah,
and I think back in 2004 is also something that resonated with me. It was this kind of concept.
What draws you to this premise then? Like, what can you explain that to me?
So I love the idea of children leading the film, right? It starts with our character Ashton Kutcher, whose name is Evan Treborn, right?
Treborn, yeah.
Evan Treborn, which, fun fact, it's, if you just mix the words a little bit, it's event reborn. So
all right.
So his whole name is basically a setup for
if you mix up the letters in my name, it spells.
You're not even mixing it up. It's just literally.
I don't know. Like
it's joining the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Evan, and then the girl he likes, Kaylee, Kaylee's brother Tommy, and then a fourth kid, I guess Johnny. Lenny. There you go.
Yeah.
So these four kids, obviously, there's an event that occurs in their childhood which traumatizes and derails the rest of their life. Right.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they find a way to kind of keep going back to that one singular event in each person's life to alter multiple events across their so that their paths cross in a way that everyone has a favorable outcome. I love that concept. I think about that shit all the time.
I agree with you. I have like a different way of articulating it, but something that really gets me about this movie, that always got me about this movie, is I have a real soft spot for movies where the major theme is regret.
Regret?
Yeah, and which is what this movie is, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing is like, we're gonna get into the plot, but like he is triggered into going back in time the first time because Kaylee commits suicide. And the reason Kaylee commits suicide is that he said he would come back for her and he never did.
Yeah.
And so his guilt is triggering him into these drastic actions, which never turn out the way he wants them to.
Yeah.
And that part of the film, I think, is the strongest aspect, is the way that he regrets his inaction to help the person he promised to help, which is his
girlfriend,
the girl he was in love
likes.
with.
Yeah.
And I really like that too. I think I agree with you on that. Is like, and it just like, it never quite works.
No.
And that's what's so, I don't know, that's what's so like life affirming about the film.
Totally.
But also what can be so dark about it in ways is that like, it's never truly the way you want it to be.
No.
Yeah.
And I guess where it fails is in its execution, because they do zigzag back in time, forward in time, back in time, forward in time several times for several reasons, which I love all of that. I find all of that necessary. They had to show some of that. They had to deal with all the individual storylines about, an abusive father or, a suicidal friend. All of that shit matters. And so all the critics who are saying that, they should have cut us. No, you're wrong. We need more of the time travels so the future can be better.
It's a weird movie where I think that it's deceptively simple in that like you think that it's complex, but because there's not as much concern with following the exact rules of the way that, time traveling works, it actually makes the movie pretty simple. Evan's character is acting because of his like heroic flaw, which is the fact that he thinks he can fix these things. Because as we find out, he's very smart and he knows about these kinds of stuff he's working on in school. But that also drives him to believe that he's smart enough to figure it all out. And he slowly finds out he can't figure it all out. The only thing he can really do is get back to being as close as to the person he was in the end. depending on what ending you watch, which we'll talk about, but is to get back to being as close as to who he was, and then deciding to never do what he did again, which is really interesting.
There's a really good point in the film where Evan doesn't have a relationship with his father because his mother's like, oh, your dad's in a psychiatric facility, so you know what, just because you have this gaping hole in your life, let's just go meet him one day. But then you find out slowly that his father also had a similar condition.
Yeah, the same condition.
Where he's able to somehow interact with the past and change the future as a result. Or he did. And it's interesting that they never show any of that in the film from the dad's perspective.
Well, I think there's like 3 or 4 sequels we could watch, like direct-to-video sequels of this film.
Are they all from the dad's perspective?
I don't know. I don't know if they get into it at all, but that seems like the logical place to go if you were to make a direct-to-video sequel.
I feel like it's going to be all different characters and a whole other thing.
I don't know.
But
this is much like Jarhead, which has all those direct. This is like one where it's like the one is
the plenty. One is plenty.
Yeah.
Well, the guys who made it are Final Destination folks.
Yeah, the other issue which I read about, which I kind of agree with, is like, so the guys who made it, they wrote and directed it, and they never really did much afterwards. And I don't want to say like, I'm not going to judge like success, not success, but like they just weren't very prolific in their careers, and I think they got out of filmmaking. I don't know, maybe they're still working. I have no idea.
Yeah.
This was their big thing. But it's their first directing gig, basically. And someone, like, I'm wondering if, like, in more experienced hands, this movie would have been received differently.
Oh, a banger, for sure.
But, like, then again, I think that might also be what makes this movie kind of unconventionally enjoyable, is because it doesn't look like someone else's movie.
No, it's very raw.
It is raw.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah. That's why it stays with you through the years. Because you watch it as also, I feel like this movie's for a very specific generation. Like if you're between the ages of 13 to 17 back when it came out, and I agree with that guy who called it like a movie for the MTV generation. Like I didn't grow up on MTV or anything, but my God, like there's a reason why this movie feels like a long, dark music video, because it's straight out of Linkin Park era.
I also think that this, like, one of the ways this movie has aged so poorly is like the revisiting of trauma is not actually explored in very much depth in this film. And so they take these very, very grave and serious subjects and they just have to move through them at a pace where people are like, wait, he doesn't feel bad about that? Like, I don't get to see him. Like, you know what I mean? Even though like you do see the after effects of it and it can be very uncomfortable, but like we've complained about, lots of, you know, storytelling these days is about trauma and about like characteristics of characters are often like, well, this bad thing happened to them in the past and that's why they're like this. And here's your flashback to explain it. And then we'll move on. And then it's kind of like, oh, that's so boring. This movie is about flashbacks. That's it. All it is a flashback. All it is. And I don't know. I don't know.
I'm so surprised. Well, like, I remember we were talking about this a long time ago, and then I know you have a deep, deep, deep hatred for any flashback movie that feels like it must explain its plot by driving into the past.
It's not plot, it's character. It's
character.
when you have to flashback to explain a character's things that drives me insane.
Yeah. Which so like, and so I'm happy to hear that this one just kind of hits it out of the park.
But it's about it though. That's what it's about.
Right. You have to go to the past.
Yeah, you have. It's the premise of the film, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're, you know, I don't know. Can't think of an example off the top of my head at the moment, but like, I think it happens in like every single television show today ever. You're just like, oh, why is this person such a jerk? And it's like, well, when they were younger, their dad smacked them. And it's like, okay, all right. I guess that explains it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Fuck that shit. House of the Dragon's a piece of shit.
We're not allowed to.
Why are they like this? Because their dad married them off to their uncle.
Oh, again? Can't catch a break.
You have plenty of uncles, young Ramirez.
Gross. Gross.
Touch my sore on my back.
Ew. I removed that from my memory for good reason, and now
The
look
show?
what you've
The
done.
entire show?
Yeah, the entire
Yeah, I'm
show.
trying to. I'm actively trying to.
Man,
I have a black spot like in Butterfly Effect where that show took place. Yeah. Oh, fuck. All right.
Plot.
We talking plot?
Let's do it.
You look like you want to talk some plot.
I want to talk some plot.
Talk some plot.
So,
I kind of have it all written out. You want
hell
me to
yeah.
take it?
No. Get into it.
So the another interesting thing about this movie, which makes it feel unique, is it has to start off with so much backstory.
Mm-hmm.
It has to it starts off with the kids, and it doesn't follow a very singular structure because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So Evan, as a young man, experiences all these blackouts.
Yes.
And go watch the movie. We can't go detail all of them, but they're basically he blacks out at these very traumatic moments of his life.
Mm-hmm. As a 7-year-old.
As a 7-year-old and as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
The 7-year-old is played by Logan Lerman,
Mm-hmm.
still acting today. I have to say, not good in this movie, but he's a young child. He was a young kid.
What do you mean? You don't like it when he says "fuck bag" 4 times?
I don't know. The kid acting in this is a little much. I think
it's awful.
it gets better when you move into
Yes.
the teenagers, who I think are okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he has these blackouts from these traumatic things with his father. He grows up with a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
He's friends with Kaylee and Tommy, who grew up with an abusive dad who makes child pornography. It's really uncomfortable. And then their buddy Lenny, who is pretty much a prop to every misfortune in this film. Essentially,
100%.
He gets it rough. It's actually kind of good at the end that he gets to live a normal life.
Yeah.
You know. I also wanted to ask you. So this movie was filmed here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Sick.
Did you notice the theater that they went to?
No.
It's the Park.
Cool.
It's still alive today.
Damn.
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Is it because of the butterfly effect? They came back to make sure the park never shuts.
The Park, the one on Canby.
Is it the one where we saw Card Counter?
Yes.
Yeah.
God.
Well, you gotta give me context.
Take you forever. Now, IMDb
I
says
love that cinema hall.
IMDb says it's the Odeon Granville Street, and they're wrong because it literally says the Park Theater on the fucking building. So pay attention. For our listeners, the Card Counter was the first movie we saw together.
Yeah, we
right?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a date.
What? God
A little
damn.
Paul Schrader really will kick off your relationship in a good way.
At the cinemas, at least.
Yeah.
But at home, I think the first movie we saw was Empty Man. So.
Yeah, there's nothing like a little Abu Ghraib torture scenes to really kick it into gear.
Bring together 2 hearts.
The Empty
and
Man.
2
I mean, the
minds.
Empty Man is, as I said, will play at our wedding on a loop. We're going to usher everyone into a room and be like, we're really happy you're here. And we're really happy that you can sit for a screening of The Empty Man. Anyway, play. And then we'll play The Empty Man.
Our 8-legged skeleton can help you whenever you need it. Bye.
Yeah. Great movie. They're there to see Seven, which is pretty dope.
I love that.
This movie is I think the tone of this film is heavily inspired by Seven.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A
Posters
movie
everywhere.
But Seven earns the darkness of it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And this movie, again, that's the thing, is it just so much of this, you're hurtled into this world where you're just like, oh, this is bleak.
Yeah.
And then it's not until you get to college, when the Kutch is grown up, that you're just like, oh, I can fucking relax. Holy shit, you know?
Yes.
I
mean, they do try to shove it down your throat every 5 minutes possible. And I want to say the pace is decent. At no point did I feel like, all right, I'm getting bored. I was always tuned in, even now, on a brand new watch while I'm a brand new adult.
Do you think though that's an effect of having seen the film? Because I can imagine seeing some movies in theaters today, and you're just like, when is this gonna fucking start?
I agree.
It's been 20 minutes and nothing significant has really happened, and you want the movie to be paced better, right? That's all. It's just
I agree with you. Now, now that I think about it, if we weren't doing a podcast about it, I would have been less impatient. No, more impatient. More impatient with it, and then. But the opening scene before the title drop, before all of that, when they straight away go into a flashback and introduce Like I am fully hooked.
They almost have to have that scene because the next like 20 minutes is all set up, and they kind of have to have that first scene to be like, don't worry, this is going
weird?
somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
So we move through all of that. Evan's in college. He's a psychology student. He lives with metalhead Ethan Suplee, who's great in this film. Also, the dude is just laying the ladies just left and right.
Hell yeah.
I love him.
He's just this
Thumper.
lovable emo punk. Just fucking crushing.
Good guy.
Crushing it.
Yeah, and the important thing about the first little bit, as I said, is like, so Evan moves away and he leaves Kaylee with her abusive father and brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts the thing on the window, says, I'll come back for you. That's the most important plot point of the entire film.
Yeah.
So essentially Evan finds out like he can go back and revisit these memories.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to visit Kaylee to catch up with her. And we find out that he never went back for her, which is the other big plot point, essentially.
Yeah.
And they chat and they talk, and Kaylee brings back all these traumatic memories. They part ways, and Kaylee takes her own life.
Yeah.
Tommy tells Evan that, and that he's going to come and kill
him.
Evan, basically.
Yeah.
So Evan thinks maybe he can go back in time and fix the issues of the past, which kicks off the whole thing.
So he's in college. Evan is in college when he first has this realization that, he can read the pages of his diary and go back in time to when those pages were written.
Yeah, so were you going to ask something from that?
I was going to say, why is that the first time he has that realization, even though he's had why does he randomly read it, even though his entire college academic career is leading up to him being super interested in memory and I'm a student of psychology or whatever. Like every class he takes is about jogging your hidden repressed memories, and then he never once thinks to read his journal articles until much later in life.
I mean, it is a little forced. Like they have to have him
be a 21-year-old.
Well, they have to have him be at a point where those traumatic memories can like resurface, right? But even just like the architecture of getting the journals back in his hands, because he's with that woman, and then she pulls him out from under the bed, and then like that.
Oh, right.
That stuff is a little like it's a little sweaty and a little floppy. But
the whole movie's sweaty.
I don't know about that. Ashton Kutcher needs to cut his hair. So he goes back to he time travels for the first time, and he goes back to the most obvious memory, which is the basement with the film being made by a creepy old Eric Stoltz,
who, by the way too cool to play a pedophile.
I mean, he's good in this movie.
He's
though.
fucking great in this
really
movie.
Terrifying. I find him
He's
really
got his
scary.
cool shirt on. He's holding a glass of whiskey with ice clinking in it, just fucking rocking it.
You know what's so uncomfortable? Like the other thing that's so hard about this movie is like a lot of the dark parts, they're almost too well done. And it's kind of like, I believe that. Like when she drops him off with Eric Stoltz and Kaylee's family and stuff, he's such a nice guy.
Yes.
And then blackout cut 2, and it's just like, it's so hard to watch.
Yeah.
And it's the same as we'll get to later. The prison sequence is really tough. Yeah. But anyway, so he goes back to that, and he essentially tells Eric Stoltz to not abuse his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cut to forward in time. He has the worst taste in clothes in this frat house.
Yes.
And so the other big, like, at this point in the movie, this whole like frat sequence is good. I actually think this whole first time travel bit is really good.
Yeah.
The way that Kutch, the Kutch plays like his discomfort with being a frat bro now is really good, and like the slow way that Amy Smart like is kind of like, you're different. Like, I don't know what it is about you, but you're different.
Yeah, your accent is
And-
different. You're walking different. You're being nice to me. What's going on?
Yeah, like it's such a funny dig at like frat culture, and
Yeah.
you can tell like the guys who wrote it have like a point of view, and which I
Yeah.
think is very funny. But anyway, so like we find out that Tommy was still abused. Amy Smart's brother was still heavily abused as a child, and
Because of Evan's previous intervention, where
Yeah.
he got his father to not attack Kaylee anymore, so he focused all his energy on Tommy instead.
yeah,
And that kid turned up fucked up.
and he comes to get Evan, and Evan ends up killing him in self-defense,
Yes.
and then we're off to prison. Now, before we get to prison,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out that there's a very romantic scene
Mm-hmm.
where they have dinner together,
Yeah.
and there's a song playing in the background,
Yeah.
and it relates to my top 5 later.
What song
We're going
is
to talk
it?
about. Well, you'll find out, won't
Oh,
you? So
God.
I just want you to keep that scene in mind. Do you remember the scene?
I do.
You probably don't remember the song.
No, that song is scary.
Doesn't matter. All right. You'll learn.
You're my butterfly.
I'm
sugar,
gonna.
baby.
I wish. Oh God. That's so funny because that's actually, I'm gonna speak about a movie that has that song in it
Ooh.
in my top 5. We're all
Okay.
sorts of connections. I'm butterfly and affecting all over this pod.
I already heard this podcast and I've come back in time to stop us.
It was
from
that
doing
bad,
it.
hey?
I'm blacking out in 3, 2.
And so off to prison where I watched this movie when I was really young, like when it came out, and it put me off going to prison for forever, basically. It's like this, I don't know what it is about this prison sequence is some of the worst in film, like the worst depiction, and I mean like the scariest depiction of prison, I think.
Have you seen
In-
Oz, the TV show?
Oh yeah, I've seen a bit of Oz.
And,
yeah.
and like Butterfly Effect is the one that got
I don't
you,
know.
hey?
I still find this one, and I've
Amazing.
seen American History X plenty of times too, and I still find this one the most like just
gutting.
jarring
Yeah.
and terrifying.
Damn.
Yeah. So he needs his journals to be able to time travel his fucking way out of here. I like how this timeline where he gets Amy Smart, he gets the girl, it kind of ends up being the worst timeline.
For him.
You know, it
Yeah.
turns out, and that's what's so effective about this whole sequence.
Mm-hmm.
He needs the journals. He asks his roommate to help him, and he convinces him by creating stigmata on his hands. Now, this is where it starts to, I think, piss people off,
Get
like
all
the
friends
audience.
and fucky. Yeah.
Well, because a child doing that, if he goes back and does that in time, wouldn't that completely change his present anyway?
Of course,
know?
but like we're dismissing all of that.
Yeah, this is the part where I'm like, I don't care that the real mechanics don't work.
Right.
This is the part where you have to be like, okay, I let go of the rules of this universe.
Yeah.
Because that would just totally change his life anyway, because it's such a massive action, right?
You have to know that the town where he grew up, that town doesn't have hospitals or anything. It just has one psychiatric facility.
Where everyone, yeah.
Everyone in the
Yeah.
movie just shows up and like, oh, you had an asthma attack. There we go. Back to the institution.
Psychiatric hospital, please.
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah.
And I feel like
it's a real depiction of the Canadian healthcare system in action.
I feel ill just thinking about it. So Evan's character, when he goes back in time to prove to his prison mate that, oh, I'm about to have a religious experience, and he stabs both of his hands on a sharp needle thing. Even if the trajectory of events after that takes Evan to a psychiatric facility, he would still come out of there. He would still be friends likely with Kaylee. He would still be dealing with. So I don't think it is too much of a departure from how his reality would have changed. He would have still ended up in prison because of that timeline.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think that like it would be like an insane thing to
Also,
happen
nobody
to a
else's
child.
life is affected at all by these 4 children every time they change
But-
history. So
Like the whole premise of the butterfly effect is that the smallest change can have these huge ripples.
Yeah.
And that's like a big change.
yeah, a lot
Could
of
you
these
imagine
changes
how
are huge.
Can you imagine how terrified you would be if a child in like 7 years old did that in your classroom?
Yeah, dude.
It'd be pretty wild. Like there was already a moment where he drew the crazy picture and
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh God."
And
Better
not
take you to see
once,
your
like
dad.
not one compliment. It was like so well drawn.
Well, he was an adult in the kid's body. so he was good at it.
But his teacher was just like, look at this creepy thing he drew. But like, yo, the brushstroke.
Is that the
Give
one
my
piece
guy
of
some credit.
is that the one piece of memorabilia you wish you had from this film?
No, it's the needles. I was kidding. Gross. No, nothing.
With hands stuck in
With
them.
2 hands.
So anyway, he gets his journals back and he teleports his way out of this bitch
Yeah.
straight up, which is a good move. He goes back to stop his dog from being killed.
Yeah.
This one's pretty rough too.
That was so rough,
Like,
dude.
Speaking of dark things, we've hit child pornography, prison sexual abuse,
Animal
child
abuse.
abuse, and now animal abuse. It's got a whole
God.
gamut of stuff. And then when he comes to the present, Lenny, who in this timeline murdered Tommy,
Mm-hmm.
is like in a catatonic state at the one hospital in the entire country.
/ psychiatric facility.
Kaylee is a drug addicted sex worker
Yeah.
in not a great place.
No.
Yeah. Which immediately once Evan learns this, is basically like,
This is the worst timeline.
this is pretty bad too.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here. So
Shazam.
he bounces off to stop the mailbox explosion memory
Yeah.
where a woman and her baby were killed. And he stops it, but then he gets his limbs blown off.
Yeah.
And when he comes to in the present, Kaylee and Lenny are just going at it.
They're together
And
intimately.
yeah, and he has no arms.
This is the best universe for every single person except for
Except
Evan.
for him. But you know what? In the kind of like classical protagonist structure,
He
this
takes it in stride.
this is his lowest point,
Yeah.
you know? And also it's the best exhibit of his problem. And his problem is he thinks he can make everything perfect.
Right.
And yet he's made everything perfect for everyone else, but he takes the selfish route and tries to change it
yeah.
because he's not having a good time.
Of course.
But you're right. It probably is the best way, besides the ending.
I think a lot of his motivation is that he wants to be with Kaylee, who he is convinced is the love of his life. And so even though everybody else is perfect, even though he doesn't have arms anymore, what if Kaylee was with him in this universe? Do you think he still would have gone and changed it? Even though he's, risking.
I don't know, but he has to. Like,
I feel like he still would.
Don't you think one interesting like philosophical thing that this movie kind of puts to you as the viewer is like, well, would you do it? Like, I'm giving you a big shrug, but like, let's be honest. If you showed up in that universe and you knew you could get out of it, like, it's kind of like, it's a dark thing to ask, but it's like, would you do the most selfish thing you could and change your life? Even though you know that in the next thing, someone might be worse off, right? Which it's so interesting because, and Evan is kind of faced with that because Tommy, who he was terrified of and really kind of hates because of the way he's experienced Tommy throughout every other timeline. It's so hard because Tommy is such a good person now. He's like a fucking Bible thumping priest.
Yeah.
And like, but Evan's like, I still hate you, you know? Yeah. It's interesting. Would you do it? Putting you on the spot.
I feel like I definitely would. Like, I definitely would. I would have such a terrible time being miserable all the time that pain would be enough of a motivator to like not push the goddamn button that gets you out of there. You know,
if
it's like medicine. I would take it immediately.
If you had like an out that wasn't death, right? Which he tries. Like he tries to.
It's the trolley problem, right? Like, would you change the lever and save yourself and kill someone else? Ugh, man,
it kind of like it's hard to talk about because it's like it feels so selfish because it's like what everyone is loving life, dude.
Yeah, I hate that for you all. I'm coming, suckers. Oh my god, Butterfly 2 starring me.
Amy Smart and Lenny are just doing it in the bed next to you. You're just like, oh, you're having fun now. Guess what? I'm about to read this journal.
Hell yeah.
And then he goes back and he tries to get rid of the dynamite, which is the next logical step, and then just blows Kaylee up.
Yeah.
And that is tough.
Yeah.
And he ends up in the mental institution, and his journals don't exist, which is a tough place to be.
And that, you know what? If they ended that movie there, where the psychiatrist tries to tell Evan that, Evan, you made up all these realities, that you're time traveling and that you're doing this to repress the pain of losing Kaylee at a very young age because of the accident. So your current and only reality is that you're mentally, just ill, that you're obviously shocked and you've been here your whole life. That would have been a sick ending, man.
That is the A24 $3 million version of this film. A man who's in a mental institution
dreams up all these
who
realities
thinks
of time
that
travel.
they've traveled through time to these different realities, but because the budget is so low, you never actually see them travel through time.
Yeah.
But it's a conversational little character piece, and then in the end, you're like, wait, was it real or was it not real? That's that movie. Anyone want to take that idea and write it? Go ahead. It would be a very difficult film to write.
You have to get back Ashton Kutcher.
Really tough. Yeah. No, but like you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
it's like
100%.
Is like a more. It's like it would be like a two-hander character piece between this doctor and this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting. Maybe I'll write it.
And then of course he Ashton Kutcher's character is still sure that his journals exist somewhere, so he sneaks out in the night to find them.
But he finds a home video. He gets a home video instead. And he goes back to a birthday party, Lenny's birthday party.
Where they're 7 years old again.
Yeah, before they'd ever become friends. And he scares off Kaylee and Tommy, and they leave the neighborhood, basically, and never come back, and they're never friends. So only the Kutch and Lenny are friends through childhood. And they grow up pretty normal life, and then wake up later, he's in college with Lenny. Yeah. Poor Ethan Suplee is gone.
Yeah, no one cares.
Poor guy just gone.
He's just out having sex. He's got his best life going.
He's busy. Yeah. He's like, all right, you do your time travel. I'm on the pole. Yeah.
Good job, my guy.
Yeah. I got a headbang and yeah.
I mean, and then in this event, because of this video and him pushing away Kaylee at a very young age, he grows up to be a friggin' doctor. Almost.
Well, he grows up to be like successful. You never really figure out what
it's like. 8 hours at the whatever.
Oh yeah, okay. So he is maybe he's a psychiatrist or something. Yeah,
yeah.
But which makes sense. But I really like the ending where he burns the journals, and the thing that's like the
theatrical ending.
Yeah. The thing that makes this movie kind of like deceptively straightforward is before he starts his time travel journey where he fucks up everyone's lives. Yeah. He says to Thumper, he's like, "How do you know who I am? I don't know who I am." And then at the end, what does he say when he lights it on fire? I know who I am. Yeah. Nice. It's a good ending. That was good. And then he sees Kaylee in the street, a total stranger.
And she pauses for a second to look at him. Then she keeps walking, and they walk their separate ways.
It's a pretty fucking good ending.
That is fantastic. That's my favorite ending.
For a movie I think is not very good.
Yeah.
It's got a really good ending. And
but it would have been uncharacteristic of this film to have a happy ending. So I'm glad they stuck to this.
He's the thing that's so satisfying about it, to me personally, as a person who, I said, I love films about regret. Yeah. He still has to live with it. Yeah. And that's what's so interesting about it, because like there's nothing more annoying than a movie where he's like, well, I figured it out and I'm cured. All right, moving on. Like, it's just so boring that way.
Boring,
but the thing is, he has to, instead of trying to change the things that he regrets, he has to accept them. That's what makes an interesting character.
I agree.
That's why beautiful. Ashton Kutcher was great in this movie.
Oscar nomination right away.
I can't believe he didn't win.
Sore loss.
I can't believe that Ethan Suplee wasn't even nominated alongside Morgan Freeman for $1 Million Baby.
Thumper 1 and Thumper 2. That's great.
No, Thumper, that was the lady in $1 Million Baby. That was the titular baby.
Baby Thump.
And then, so I watched the alternate ending.
Nice,
which
me too.
Is not good.
Which one? There's like 3 more.
Oh, I watched the one where he kills himself in the womb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's not
Which was very strange, because he like goes back in time enough to be a fetus.
You know what's weird? And what's so weird about that movie is like pace wise, it's just like he does a thing and then it's like movie's over.
Yeah,
Like,
immediately.
it's
yeah.
just like it's too abrupt
Yeah.
and just not. I don't know. It's like dark, but like not in a great way.
Not
I
great.
don't know. Like I, as I said, I like it more to believe that it's like he has to accept his regrets
Yeah.
instead of killing himself.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
That was definitely a strange one. Also, babies don't remember anything. Prove me wrong, baby. I will argue any
Yeah.
baby. So, all right.
I'll fight any baby in the womb.
In the womb.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Don't say you'd fight a
Yeah.
womb baby.
Also, like babies get the umbilical cord wrapped around them.
Yeah, they fight themselves.
That does happen,
Yeah.
but they don't do it on purpose.
I'll show you,
I'm-
world.
I'm gonna let babies off the hook here.
Okay.
They're not doing it on purpose. It's usually not, by accident.
I'm doing it. I'm just kidding. Jesus Christ. Okay, we'll cut that out. I love all babies equally.
Every baby in the world,
Every baby in
I
the
love
world.
you.
Yes. There's another ending, and there's 4 endings to this movie. One is a theatrical one. One is the one where he kills himself in the womb. The third one is they cross paths in the last scene, and they walk past each other, but then they both turn around, and Kaylee recognizes him, or at least is like, oh, Evan, oh what? And then obviously they haven't had contact since their 7th birthday party, so they just it just fades away.
So there's one where Kaylee looks at him.
Yeah.
Because I think in the theatrical he looks, but she doesn't, right?
Well, like they both glance and then they walk separate ways anyway.
But then he turns right around and watches her go.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's
Yeah.
the theatrical one.
Yeah.
But then in this one, they talk. They come back and then they talk to each other and it cuts out from
Yeah.
there. So it's like, oh, maybe they kept in touch and maybe this was the happy ending. Then there's another ending where
he's the baby and
No.
he turns around and sees her in New York and she's like, that baby is walking like a normal man in a suit.
baby Kutch. Surely I'm being punked right now.
Is Dax Shepard anywhere near here? No, he is the baby.
He is the baby.
Yeah, he's the tallest baby.
I'll tell you, this is my favorite ending. This one where Kaylee walks down the street and she looks so free and so happy and so confident.
She wearing that white suit.
She's wearing a white suit.
Amy
and a
Smart
sea
was
of-
stunning in that scene.
Incredible.
Is like it's so well filmed and just
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's in this like sea of suits. Like Amy Smart stands out, and so Kaylee's just walking down the street. Doesn't even, I don't even think she looks at him. But then the Kutch turns around and just walks behind her, and it closes. And he keeps walking behind her.
Mm.
She doesn't turn. She doesn't look at him, but he sort of silently pursues her, and we don't know. Maybe he'll just be admiring from a distance like a creep, or maybe he'll approach her later.
It's interesting.
So he still kind of caves in
Yeah.
a way that. What could he do now to fuck her life up? Right? Probably nothing.
I think that's the interesting thing about the actual ending. The theatrical ending is like, while he has to live with all his regret and he knows what he should and shouldn't do,
Mm-hmm.
he still has a chance not to be with her, but to have her as part of his life.
Yes.
But I think you never know whether he could do that. But obviously she still exists in the world. And it begs the question that it's like, is she, because they never grew up together, she grew up differently, is she still really the same woman that he would have been in love with?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're making all these assumptions. Like when he comes back to get her, when she's even a waitress working at and she's like, Evan, oh my God, I can't believe you left. And
Yeah.
then, yeah. Already she's a different person because one interaction with this man, and then later that night she kills herself.
Yeah, and then also when she's the sex worker and
Yeah.
she's really down. It's rough. She's really down on her luck.
Yeah.
But she's lived such a hard life that she's become this just totally malignant
thing.
person to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And you can't help but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really interesting.
And so it was cool to see her have a happy ending, and then also a little bit creepy to see him turn around and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm gonna walk behind her for a while."
I feel like that's probably why they didn't choose that one.
No, that's why I like it.
That's why you like it. Yeah.
I feel like I got lobotomized by this movie, dude. What the fuck?
Do you think so I was trying to like figure out, I think I said earlier, like I was trying to figure out if this movie would kind of be reclaimed by culture in any way.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it ever will? I think it's like a tough,
Not with
it's
these
a
themes.
tough one.
No chance. Like, for sure not. If they can find a reasonably acceptable way to showcase those themes, which they for sure can. Like, you can still do a fantastic job talking about abuse, talking about, trauma.
I mean, lots of movies and TV shows tackle that today.
Yeah.
In more tasteful ways, certainly.
100%.
Yeah.
And
with
it's
plenty,
more effective.
with plenty of flashbacks just to please people like me who love them.
I feel like immediately I'm thinking of Hereditary, which does a great job of talking of grief. And
yeah, that's a fun movie too.
a light Sunday watch.
Yeah. Whenever I watch Hereditary, my spirit's always lifted, Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was trying to kind of look, I think the critical consensus of this movie is it's not very well regarded, but I think people like it more than critics did.
Yeah.
But I do still think there's a large contingent of people who are just like, no, can't do it.
Critics gave it 33% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But then people gave it somewhere in the 77 or something.
But you can see like a handful of comments, and also like the movie's almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
Like you can see a handful of comments. Like I was looking on Reddit, I looked on IMDb, and IMDb is full of some of the smartest film criticism by the users I've ever read. And Reddit too is all geniuses.
Yeah, just
but like
nothing
you
but
can
good news.
like you can kind of see that it's like speaking of genius film criticism, this is so stupid. It's like, yeah, some people like it, some people don't.
Gospel.
I belong on Reddit.
Thank you.
So like, yeah, I don't know, but I was a little.
I could definitely see why some people definitely hate it.
100%. That's my whole thing about being I like it, but I understand that it's not a good movie. Yeah.
Yes. Same.
And I just don't see it ever being reclaimed. Kutcher never went on to really become a thing, and he's never had and I don't think he ever will. Like, I don't think he's ever had a comeback.
What?
And
No strings attached. I'm just kidding.
What?
Friends with benefits. I don't know which one is which, but yeah.
Yeah, the one with Ashton Kutcher is the one with Ashton Kutcher.
That's the one.
But like he's like not a bad person. Like I think he does like good things in his life.
Even after 2.5 men? No, I'm just kidding.
Was he the
He's
half?
the half men.
He's so large.
I know. He's 2 men.
He could dunk on Charlie Sheen. If Charlie Sheen wasn't on meth anyway.
Oh God.
Do you want to get into my top 5?
Oh no, I don't think I'm ready.
Are you sure? It's really bad.
Hit me with it. What's your top 5?
So as you recall, there's a scene in which Amy Smart, he takes her out for a romantic dinner in the frat sequence, right?
Yeah.
And there's a song playing, and it's a song by a band called Jimmy Eat World.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? Have you ever listened to Jimmy Eat World?
Is it Sail Away?
No.
No.
This is gonna go poorly then. Jimmy Eat World was like a kind of like a pop indie dad rock band in like the mid early 2000s.
Okay.
And they ran a train on pop culture in the most subtle ways. Now, the reason I say that, so they were featured in just all sorts of media.
Yeah.
Randomly, and you will have heard one of their songs. I mean, you've heard one in Butterfly Effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the top 5 times that Jimmy Eat World was featured in media, and the first one. You've got to go look it up when we're done recording, because the first number 1 song, you'll be like, oh, I've heard this everywhere.
Yeah.
So number 5, the song Sweetness, which I think is a legitimately good song by them, was featured in the EA Sports video game NHL 03. We can move past that. We don't have to, but that's a really good song.
Is this top 5 dedicated just to Jimmy World?
Yeah, Jimmy Eat World.
Jimmy Eat World.
Eat World.
Jimmy Eat World. This whole time I thought you were saying Jimmy World, like WURL.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not enunciating.
God.
Jimmy Eat World. Okay,
it's coming back
for
to
all
me.
the people who grew up the way I did, which was 3 other people in the world.
You and your much music.
They fucking ruled.
Not much.
The song Bleed American, the titular track from the album Bleed American. And sorry, I will point out, every song I'm about to mention is from that one album.
This is so stupid.
Bleed American was used in the scene in Van Wilder where he plays hockey against Tara Reid.
Van Wilder.
Have you seen that movie?
Of course,
It is terrible. But more importantly, do you think that when Cal Penn went to work for the Obama administration, he like put that on his sizzle reel? He's like, hey, I was in this, by the way.
Now that oh my God, is Butterfly Effect a sci-fi Van Wilder?
I mean, no.
All the sorority scenes check out. Anyway, no. Okay.
Yeah.
I just blacked out there
Tara
for a
Reid.
second. So.
Tara Reid. You're gonna black out over this whole thing. So number 3, the song "Hear You Me" is number 3 and number 2, but I'll get to that. "Hear You Me," Butterfly Effect, that scene. It's actually good. It's probably the best use of that song.
Oh, nice. Okay.
However, that song was also in an episode of One Tree Hill, which fucking rules.
Yo, One Tree
Hill.
Now,
speaking of Jimmy Eat World running a train on pop culture, they ran a train on One Tree Hill. If you were watching One Tree Hill at this moment or any time, there's probably a 50% chance you're listening to a Jimmy Eat World song at the moment.
At the moment.
They have used so many of their songs.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
One Tree Hill, why can't I watch you anywhere?
I know.
I want to watch you.
It's just...
Sophia Bush, can you call us and just be like, hey,
best.
I have all the DVDs.
The Bush, get in touch.
Bushy,
okay.
give us a call.
It's okay.
Sophia Bush, she's cool.
She's great.
She's cool.
Is she doing a podcast?
Oh, almost. I think she is with Haley. There
you go.
Hillary Burton?
I think so.
Is it Peyton or Haley?
I think one of them. Wait, are they different people?
What happened to Chad Michael Murray?
I love that show.
That guy was a fucking stud, and he just... When I was in high school, he was the hottest thing ever. In this movie,
he would have been a good Ashton Kutcher, dude.
You know what's a crazy thing to say? Ashton Kutcher's a better actor.
That's true. That's true. No, that's objectively true. I agree.
Yeah.
I think this movie would be even more ridiculed if you had like some, teen boy.
Kutcher, again, like I said, and I will say it, Kutcher is good in this film. I think his baggage kind of, but if this movie had been made with like some unknown or up and coming actor, different reception. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think it would be like critically acclaimed, but I think people would like it more.
I think if they get that guy from Primal, it'd be fucking great.
You mean the writer, director, and actor of Primal?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy. And also, it'd be great if he could write, direct, and act this movie. Thanks, man.
It would make the movie completely unintelligible, but that's okay.
Worth it.
Primal's good.
Number 2.
I'm on number 1, actually.
Oh, shit.
Number 1 is the song that everyone knows. They don't know the name of it, though, by Jimmy Eat World. It's called The Middle.
Oh.
Now, it was used in, I think, every single trailer that came out between 2002 and 2005. It's used in the trailer for The New Guy, which is a fucking great movie. Did you ever watch The New Guy?
No.
It's a DJ Qualls outfit.
What?
Yeah.
I gotta look this up right now.
No, don't look it up now. It's bad. It's not good. But more importantly, it was used in a great film known as Orange County.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which I believe in our Enemy of the State episode, we said that Zoe Kravitz should only remake stuff that had Jack Black in a supporting role in them.
Yeah.
And if Zoe Kravitz would go ahead and remake Orange County, I would be down. She'd take the Colin Hanks role.
Hell yeah.
Have you ever seen Orange County?
No.
Oh my God.
But I've heard you talk about it so much.
It rips.
Yes. Yeah.
It's got a great part by the now legendary creator of White Lotus, Mike White, who I think wrote it. I think.
Okay.
But
this is different from The OC, yes?
Yeah, The OC was a television program.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Orange County.
I thought you were just being like, oh, hey, well, that government name.
Orange County. The film is just a great movie.
Cool.
It's just an excellent film.
Nice.
And it uses the Middle by Jimmy Eat World in it. And have you ever?
That's your number 1.
Yeah, it's my number 1. And it should basically, that song could be used in like every trailer ever.
How does it go? You have to
I'm not going to sing it to you.
Sing it to.
Have you ever stumbled upon the website The Walk of Life Project?
Mm-mm.
Well, after this recording, you look it up. And for anyone listening
Why
out
does it
there,
sound so familiar?
the Walk of Life, I may have showed it to you. The Walk of Life project is a collection of endings of films that are all set to the song Walk of Life by Dire Straits. And
that's great.
it posits that is the greatest ending song for any film, no matter what the film. And guess what? They're right. And that's what the middle is for trailers, basically.
Nice.
You can cut any trailer to the middle, and it's fucking amazing.
It's that one.
Yeah.
It's not come my lady, come my lady.
No, but that's in Orange County. That's what I was gonna say.
Nice.
That's
You're my butterfly.
that song is called Butterfly.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god. There's all so many connections. I don't think that's gonna come across the way you wanted it to.
As butterfly flapping its butter causing a tornado in Asia.
I think we just caused a tornado on this show.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Chaos theory is this episode.
The butterfly effect.
Bye.
We just cut out a long pause, and now we're just saying bye. Wait, do we want to do a proper goodbye here?
How does this movie ultimately make you feel?
Bad.
At the end of the day, do you wish that this movie never existed?
No.
No, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
We're
It's a fine
happy.
movie.
We're happy it's here. It's fucked up.
It's right in our wheelhouse. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It leaves you thinking about things when you get out of the cinemas.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
It makes you think about making the most of your time now. It makes you think about not having to regret your past, which no one should have to do that. That's a terrible feeling. Regret.
But that's what's so effective about it, is that everyone does do that.
Yes.
You know,
in
that's the
hindsight,
thing.
we're all butterflies affecting ourselves.
Shaklackety. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.